Hello, my name is Cor Kramekel and I'm a tax partner in PwC Africa. Today we are talking to my colleague Jaime Esteves, who is a tax partner in our Angolan office. We're talking about certain aspects of doing business in Angola with a focus on the tax implications for foreign investments. Welcome, Jaime.
Thank you.
We know that each country has got its unique issues when it comes to cross-border investment. Many of these issues, however, can be resolved if you in advance know what to look out for. What are the 2 or 3 top issues in Angola to look out for?
Great question. Thank you. In my view, there are 3 main topics in Angola: availability of time, funds, and staff. Why? First, because Angolan law is much based in Portuguese law, which in turn is pretty much inspiring the French law. So it comes without surprise to anyone that bureaucracy requires a lot of effort from the business community, the investors, and the entrepreneurs. The first bureaucratic headache to any investor comes immediately with the prior approval of an investment project. It can take some time before being approved and the investor being actually allowed to set up the business structure, being a company or a branch, and to actually bring the funds into the country. So an investor needs to plan well in advance and he must be prepared to unexpected delays. The second issue is moving cash in and out the country. Due to oil downturn, Luanda is no longer the most expensive city in the world, but it remains clearly on the top 5 of the most expensive cities. A successful investment needs money on top of time. There is currently a shortage of hard currency, meaning the transfer of funds abroad may be complex, time-consuming, and slow. This is something an investor needs to consider upfront. Thus, the source of funding and the investment repatriation are major issues to incorporate in the investment plan. Third, and last but not least, definitively, of the key issues are human resources. Again, due to oil downturn, salaries are now much lower than 2 or 3 years ago, and talent is more easily available. But finding the right resources remains a strong challenge for investors. Local content rules, expatriate quotas, obtaining visa and work permits, the Angolanization concept, meaning the reduction of the gross number of the expatriates, and the shortage of hard currency may again turn the investor life quite hard. In a nutshell conclusion, the 3 key points when investing in Angola are time, funds, and staff, tools requiring a strong and detailed preparation well in advance of any prospective move. However, if you can deal with these 3 issues and have a strong plan, then you'll find that Angola is a very interesting country for investment, full of opportunities and rewards.
Thank you, Jaime. After this initial startup phase, what are the further items to look out for in Angola?
Well, I think I will continue with my short list: time, funds, and manpower. Angola imports a significant part of goods and services required by the business activity. Thus, even established business will have main concerns in obtaining hard currency to pay for imports. Then, if the business is healthy and profitable and investors will like to receive part of their returns, wire transfer abroad may again be an issue. The banking system is also not facing bullish times and, as a result, raising funds locally, especially in material amounts and without sound collaterals, may also prove to be hard. So funding is clearly an issue for new business as well as for established business. Then staffing is also another issue. Major oil and gas companies may offer salaries that other companies cannot match. Expats will need to renew their work permits after a maximum initial period of 3 years and may also face challenge in performing wire transfer abroad. Accordingly, an excellent training program to maintain a fit, well-motivated and a well-trained labor force is of utmost relevance for any business. Finally, time is a third key issue for a well-established business. Not only because bureaucracy stills there waiting for you after your initial investment, but also because Angola may have very swinging times. A not issue could be delayed for a long period, then could turn very urgent and very high in the agenda, and suddenly after returning to a slow mode. And you need to be prepared for quick changes and to react quickly and accordingly, or you will just lose the momentum. So, in my view, these are the key reasons why Angola is low in the World Bank doing business and on IMF competitiveness ranking. The good points to retain is that government is strongly committed to work very hard to quickly escalate those rankings for much better positions.
That's very interesting, Jaime. If we turn our attention to the future, from an administrative and tax legislative perspective, what's on the horizon for Angola?
Well, thank you. You should have noted that I didn't mention tax issues up to now. This not because taxation is an irrelevant or an easy issue in Angola, but rather because the tax system and the tax authorities are not harder than examples you may easily find in African economies. Quite on the contrary, the system is somehow easy to understand, although on the high side of the effective total tax burden. As a result, the Angolan tax system compares very well with other African countries competing to attract foreign direct investment. This, even if the tax authorities are now pushing harder in monitoring the taxpayers. In fact, you may easily find more extreme examples across the African continent. However, investors need to consider that Angola is heavily dependent on oil revenues. Due to difficulties in Nigeria, Angola is now the first sub-Saharan oil and gas producer, and oil and gas revenues represent more than two-thirds, 40% of GDP, and very good 90% of exports. During these strange times where oil and gas prices are low for long, government suffers a huge pressure on their fiscal revenues and their balances. All oil-rich countries, including Angola, face now a strong need to diversify tax revenues and to increase non-oil and gas taxation. The expected tax changes and the Angolan tax authorities' approach to tax inspection, tax assessment, and tax collection need to be seen at this light of a strong need of fiscal revenues diversification. So I expect that tax bases and effective tax rates of personal income tax will increase, and that the same may happen with the consumption tax. In the near future, consumption tax may also be replaced by a simplified VAT system. But all the initiatives are expected to concentrate on registering and assessing all taxpayers and the full taxable basis. For a foreign investment point of view, the absence of double tax treaties is also a cause of lower competitiveness. So I expect in the short term strong efforts to be undertaken in order to start a sound network of selected double tax treaties. I also expect that the network of protection investment treaties is also to expand quickly.
Thank you, Jaime. That brings me to my last question. Globally, there's a lot of talk about the OECD's BEPS initiative. What does this mean for Angola?
Yes, no doubt. BEPS is on the radar of the Angolan authorities. The need to diversify the tax revenues and the decrease of tax avoidance should be a strong trigger to implement BEPS-based measures in the short term. Angola is part already of the extended BEPS program and should be part of the country-by-country reporting mechanism. I also expect the wording of the present GAR, the General Anti-Avoidance Rule, to be refined and the General Anti-Avoidance Clause to be more often applicable. Intergroup transfer pricing policies and actual transfer pricing practices are to be subject to a much higher scrutiny, as well as loose concepts as effective place of management, permanent establishment, artificial fragmentation, and requalification of activities will see the attention of the tax authorities. As well, FACTA is being implemented and exchange of information mechanisms should increase substantially. As a result, I see that a controversy and dispute resolution mechanism should be high on the agendas both of the tax authorities and the taxpayers. In short, Angola is in a kind of a crossroad between attracting FDI but also enlarging the tax basis, the tax revenues, and the actual tax enforcement and tax collection. When this dilemma appears, countries very often consider special economic zones as a solution, something that was discussed but not yet implemented in Angola. However, we have successful examples of other African countries with such a solution, and as such, this is something that may be considered shortly and to be followed closely.
Thank you, Jaime. That was very insightful, and I hope you enjoyed listening to our program.